It's the Abba Podcast. Let's go.
And the next guest on the podcast, it's a pleasure to have him on. Estevan, how are we, my brother?
I'm good, Abbas. Abbas, what a pleasure to be joining you on this podcast, man. I'm a bit nervous, so if I come across a bit shy, be gentle with me, mate, please.
Oh, mate, this is the humility of the man. This is why we got him on, guys. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from this fella. Champion, we'll start off with how are we today, the Socceroos? I got through, huh?
Mate, I think it's great. You know what? I'm going to be honest. I'm going to just shoot straight from the hip on this one. It's probably the most unimpressive Socceroo team I've seen in a long time. I think, against the odds of it all, they've qualified. I think that's great. I think nothing's lost on the fact that we're going to a World Cup, particularly when bigger countries are not. But I think, it's important to be realistic on this one. We've got a lot of work to do to not look silly when we go over there. And it's a big group. Denmark, France, in particular for me, are definites. I just hope we don't look silly, mate. It's going to be tough. Like, the Socceroo team doesn't impress me. So, but let's not take that away. It was a beautiful thing, particularly to see the grey wiggle, Andrew Redmayne doing bits. And also, I saw a post today with somebody holding up John Aloisi's camiseta, his football jersey. So I thought that was beautiful symmetry, and I love that. And Red is getting rid of the water bottle of the other goalkeeper, so he couldn't read his notes. I loved all that. Very, very Australiana on that one. But we'll see. A lot of work to do. It's a big thing, the World Cup, and I hope we don't look too silly going there.
Most definitely. Look, we did get there based on effort, and hopefully the boys do put their best foot forward. It is a tough group. I feel Tunisia you can get a result. Denmark possibly, and even France. If you go off the last World Cup, we did get a result against them. Hopefully that can be repeated. But when we're talking about football and the love for football, first and foremost, I got to congratulate you in Madrid. The greatest Madrid fan, the most passionate of them all in this country is yourself.
I would agree with you 100%. I would. I'm not modest there, man. I'm a big Real Madrid fan. It means a lot to me. And you know what? All that said about the Socceroos, if they can take a leaf out of Real Madrid's book, everybody wrote them off. They said this was their worst Madrid team in a long time, and they beat everyone. Abbas, mate. They beat the current champions in Chelsea. They beat the English champions in Man City, and then they beat that other team, Liverpool, who's
won't be named.
Liverpool, who's the last L is silent apparently in the way you pronounce that correctly. So, mate, very good for Spanish football. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a big advocate for particularly La Liga and Spanish football, and mate, always proud. It's a part of the family, Real Madrid. So. Always feel good when those boys win, and we do win.
No, legend. Look, I feel it's important to get into the football. What inspired you? How did you come across the game of football? Because you're very passionate, and that comes across in other avenues in your life, which we'll get to. But let's start with football.
Yeah, well, I was. I always say I have the good fortune of being born a Real Madrid fan. How did I get into it? I don't know. Is the answer? I just, my grandfather is a big Madrista. My dad is a Madrista. Believe it or not, Abbas, this is something that a lot of people don't know, and I'm revealing it for the first time. Between the ages of 5 and 8, I actually played rugby league. I had a cousin who was playing like lower grades for the Newcastle Knights, and my cousin Michael. Excuse me if I cough a little bit too.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Little horse. My cousin Michael, on my Australian side of the family, I idolized the guy. He was one of my heroes as a kid, and I just want to play rugby league. I was rubbish at it. They put me out in the wing, skinny ethnic kid on the wing. I couldn't tackle, I couldn't score, but I could kick goals, and I ended up with the highest point score tally in the club as a 7-year-old. I scored more points from conversions than anybody else. And then my dad said, "Listen, enough's enough. You gotta, we're going out standing in the cold every Saturday morning, and you're just kicking a ball and crying on the wing." And I eventually went across to football. But to answer your question, it's just been there, mate. Like, it's just part of the family, like I said. And I grew up very luckily on the knee of a very proud Madrista, my grandfather, and he taught me, as I like to call it, the ways. The history of the club. In Spain, football isn't just it isn't really a sport in that sense. It's part of the cultural fabric of the nation. So, it's in the arts pages, and it's viewed a little bit more as part of the arts as opposed to just a sport. So, mate, it's very hard to ignore it. And it forged a really tight bond, particularly between my grandfather and myself on my Spanish side. My mum's Australian, my dad's Spanish, and that's how we hung out. Like he and I just used to hang out, and that's how I got into my culture, was through that football team. So yeah,
It's most definitely, and that's where I find a lot of people express themselves, show their love, and show their different ways. And like you said, it's more of an art as well in Madrid. A lot of people in this country might not understand how football is more than just a game, and it's just said in vain sometimes. And it lives on with you. You know, you've got the Madrid logo on your ink, so it's inked up on your body. So it means more than just what it may be to someone else. So talk to us about that and expressing yourself throughout the years. So as you grew up, I'm sure you were a proud Madrista. You played the game. After that, did that give you confidence to venture off in other avenues in life? And did you use those lessons to grow in other fields?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot there to answer. So I definitely feel like first and foremost, like my grandfather, like just gave me a place that wasn't my parents to go to, and I've sort of thought about this a lot over the years, about how we're kind of often closer with our grandparents than we are our parents, because our grandparents aren't our parents. I see the same thing with my dad and my grandfather. Like, they were father and son, and although there's a bondness, there's something a little bit different about grandparents. And I see this with my nephew now with my dad. Something about not being the son or the father or the mother and the daughter, or the son and the mother. There's something about it, because I was really close with my Spanish grandparents, both my grandfather and my grandmother, and it started with the football. But because the football is conducive to the culture, that opened me up to things like flamenco music and food. Like I used to be a chef back in the day, because I could cook Spanish food. My grandmother taught me how to cook. And just by proxy, that just gets you exposed to a bunch of different things like the arts. And I'd gotten to a point where I'd been playing football, and I realized that you're a bit of a commodity, that you're just going to be used for your talent, and there's going to be someone chasing you, or there's someone ahead of you, and there's not a lot of love, And as a young kid, as I saw that, I thought, oh, this isn't really fun. It wasn't like playing with your mates, or it wasn't like keeping it casual. So as it started to become a bit of a business for me, I actually wanted to get out of that. And I also had that clash with this need to be a bit more expressive, particularly as a 19-year-old. I started seeing a girl who was a musician. She later went on to become my wife. And I just started opening up to a bunch of different things. But because I had that cultural connection through football and then the arts, I was able to make a pretty big decision to drop the football and then move into the arts, and particularly as an actor.
Yeah, look, it's crazy because I can connect with your story in a way, because when I played football, I played it growing up. So it was the only sport I ever played competitively. It's the only sport that I aspired to actually be a professional. If I read back on my journals, and anything and everything was around football. I wasn't the flashiest player. Unfortunately, I was that grub, that person that was in the grind and wanted to pull your jersey. If it was a 50-50, it wasn't a 50-50. I was going to win that challenge no matter what. And it was the culture that was embedded. It was always you play hard, you give everything, and you don't leave anything that off the field. So you leave it all on the field. And when it came to, which is probably a bit opposite to yourself, when it came to expressing yourself or doing something different to what others are doing, you always look down upon. And like, it took me a long time to build up the courage to host a podcast or even be on a podcast. But it was something that I always struggled with, because AJP lived on since we were in school. So anyone who's ever went to school with me knew that AJP was a thing. And I just never took that step, because the environment, the football environment, is more, you're a clown, or you can't do something that's outside the norm because no one else has done it. So I struggled in that sense. It's interesting to see in Madrid or in Europe that it's actually encouraged, because the arts is part of the culture of the club, and it means more than just being the average Joe Blow. Is that the case, or have I misread the room?
No, like I think you make a good point, and it's worth pointing out. I really hear you when you say that, because I was the same. I grew up in a small coastal town, a place called Ulladulla on the south coast, and it was not encouraged. Like first of all, it wasn't a football town, football that I know. So to me, there's AFL, rugby union, rugby league, and football. So it wasn't a football town, it was a rugby league town. And that's why I got into the juniors, because when we moved there, I wanted to make friends and also, be like my cousin.
Yeah, that's why you had a go at me when you see me in the Newcastle. I remind you of your childhood, chap. What's going on?
Exactly, mate. Exactly. And it was a trigger, mate. It's very triggering. I was almost like had PTS, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Huss will tell you, actually.
How do you tackle what I'll do? I've got to get rid of this guy. Get him out.
Exactly. Huss will tell you, actually, there's been a couple of times, him and Adama, a couple of mutual friends of Abbas and I, where they've tried to bring rugby league into the cage at work, and I get very upset with them. Yeah, to answer your question, it wasn't easy in a small town. Like, first of all, it's a bit of a WOG game. And then to also be artistic and to be yourself, it was really pushed down. Like, I could really feel the pressure of just the community. And I mean, kids in school, teachers, that kind of thing. I remember a teacher asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, well, I just want to be David Beckham. And he's like, well, that'll never happen. And I'm like, well, how do you know? Because David Beckham was somebody, and now he's David Beckham. And for me, to be honest, Abbas, you couldn't stop it. It was a bit like the tide. Like, I was just gonna express, I can't not say it without saying it like this character, Kiki Flores. I was just gonna express myself no matter what. And it just couldn't be stopped. And even when I was living in town, I dressed differently. I was different. It also meant that I got girls, which was cool. I like that. I had a bit of depth. And my dad told me, he said, you're gonna, you're different and girls will see that. So I was like, okay. If it meant that I copped a beating from some guys, particularly older guys, I didn't care, because it meant that I got the girls. But it honestly, to be frank, it couldn't really be stopped. I wasn't trying to oppress it or anything or hide it, be it the football or the artistic side. It was just, man, it was like a fountain, really. And I just knew that if I wasn't really doing that, I wasn't really, I was lying to me. And I mean, I don't think you can do that. I think deep down, even if you try, it's really hard to lie to yourself. Eventually something's going to give, and I just gave to that. I was like, okay. And I just didn't want to do anything, what you would call normal. I think about it now, and I didn't want to work in a bank or be, oddly enough, a teacher, even though that's what I do now, because I just wanted to get out of that small town and see the world. And I just thought football was one way, or being an actor was another way, that I could just honestly get rich and famous. As I grew and I went and explored those worlds, I saw it was a very different thing. But particularly as a kid, I just wanted to get out of small town New South Wales,
100%. And this is something that the viewers and people might not understand, because they haven't actually taken those steps. Perception is not reality. What you feel or what you think when people interact at certain levels, you soon, if you do get to that stage, soon realize that it's not the reality or the thing that you thought your whole life. It's actually 2, 3, 4, or 11 players that are absolutely normal, that have just put in the work, interacting with one another. The same problems you have with you and your neighbor and your mates, they have the exact same problems. It's only their life's in the limelight, your life isn't. You put a camera in front of yours, and guess what? You might have a similar life.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we see a lot these days because the world has changed so much. But I was talking the other day about like the pressures of what it is to be like a footballer, and, it's hard to, have a relationship or date or anything like that, because everybody's watching what you do. And then recently I had a chat with somebody about Johnny Depp, who is somebody that many years ago I used to really admire on screen and off screen. I could kind of be like, I just want to be like Johnny Depp. And I look at him now and I just think, these false idols, they're all humans, and we've all got our scarring, and we've all got our faults. And, the way you see things, particularly as a kid, you go, well, I just want to play at the Bernabeu or at Old Trafford, or I just want to play in an NRL grand final, whatever it is. To get there is one thing, and then to be there and to see the realities of it can be a completely different thing. And I don't know, I just don't think enough people are talking about that, or talking about also the nobility of just having an everyday job and the peace that can come from that, So yeah, that's what I found. Particularly with football, I just looked around and I was like, I'm not enjoying this. And I didn't want to get to a point where I couldn't have a chat with my dad about it. I just didn't want to be in a place where when I got older, he'd say, "Oh, did you see the game?" And I'd be like, "I'm not interested." And I had a lot of mates like that who just left the game completely, and they follow AFL now and rugby league. And to me, I worry about that a lot actually as a football fan in this country. You know, particularly with the kids and the coaching that I do. I want to keep kids in this game because it's a great game to be a part of. You know, on any level, just as a fan. You know, you always have a family in football.
100%. I feel where we've dropped the ball we've dropped the ball a lot in this country. We've dropped it in every facet, to be fair. We've just pushed the people away because it's like a monopoly. They've got their control and you can't say otherwise. You know, if you're a fan like the Wanderers, they came into the club, you know, they won the Asian Champions League, they won the A-League in their first couple of years. It's unheard of. And then what the response was get rid of all the RBB, make sure you put bans, sanctions, limit their interaction, limit their expression. You know, you go to the museum, we're playing and we're celebrating the RBB. And then you go to the games, they're making sure they're not allowed in. So I feel like it's juxtaposes. We're trying to grow the game. As soon as the game starts to grow, then we're like, oh, no, you're doing it different to what we feel like. Our stakeholders unhappy.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think about this a lot. And again, apologies for the coughing. But I think about this a lot. And, you know, what I find really hard as somebody who's been in the game and in the arts and stuff is that, and with football in this country, I think the hardest thing for football in general is that it is big business. It has become a commodity, and the purity and the beauty of the game and sport in general is on the wayside, just simply because so much money can be made from it. And so it doesn't matter what happens or how the fans feel, it's always going to be what makes the money and the people who have the money or are making the money, what they want from it. So like I played football in the time of the NSL, which was the National Soccer League. And back then clubs, and a lot of these clubs are still around, were ethnic clubs. So you know, you had Marconi, an Italian club, Apia, an Italian club, Sydney Olympic, a Greek club, Wollongong at the time were a Macedonian club. And these were communities that revolved around the football club, and people would go and watch their teams play. And yes, sometimes if, you know, the Serbs and the Croats met, there would be arguments because of cultural differences. And don't get me wrong, there were some dark days there. I saw some dark things. The game saw some dark things with fans fighting each other and stuff like that. But most of the time, and I would say 90% of the time, it was ethnic communities bonding. And it was also a place for people of their community to stay connected to their community. And particularly when we talk about people who've been migrants or refugees or displaced, that's invaluable. And, you know, to get kind of heavy, kind of quick on this kind of stuff, what makes me sick now is they whitewashed the football in this country by getting rid of the NSL and getting the A-League in and getting rid of all the ethnic clubs. And if you're an ethnic club, like for example, big club in Melbourne called South Melbourne, a Greek club originally called South Melbourne Hellas, they're ready to go into the A-League, but they'll never get in because they're a Greek club. They could change the way they look and everything like that, and then they can get in. But any kind of association to the fact that they're Greek and the powers that be won't have it. And that's, to me, to be frank, is disgusting, because that's what makes this game in particular so beautiful, is that it's not about these cultural teams saying, well, I'm Greek or I'm Italian, you can't come in. I'm Spanish and I've been invited into all those cultures, and all those cultures I've learned from, you know, and I work with Greek guys, I work with Macedonian guys, I work with Italian guys, and there's a level of relation that you have because you've been involved with that community on some level through football or the arts. So, yeah, I miss that. I think it's gone, sadly. But I also think, as I said at the start just then, sport has changed. You know, even if we look at it in Europe, and it is about making money now. And to me, that's a bit sad. I know that sounds a bit like, oh, well, what can we do about it? But it's sad. But that's how it is, because there's just so much money to be made that it's never going to make way for those glory days when it was just about the sport.
Yeah, that's what disappoints me. And a Quranic verse resonates with me, that we were made from different tribes and races and cultures to get to know one another. And indeed, the best amongst you is the most God conscious. It's not the fact that we weren't made to mix and mingle and get and learn through all cultures, races, religions. And football provides that if used in the right way. And unfortunately, like you said, football shied away from that. Rather than building and bringing people together, there's more divisions and politics in football than there is in the world. And that's saying something.
And I think that's really sad. I mean, and I don't mean any disrespect to any other sports, because we do have a good, I wouldn't say great, but we do have a good sporting culture in this country. What I think is sad about it is if we're not winning at something, then we don't care. So it's that tall poppy, knock them down if they're good. But if you're not good, then we don't care. And that can be in Formula One with Mark Webber and Dan Ricciardo. Will anybody watch Formula One if there's not an Australian in it again? It can be in your game in rugby league. You know, as soon as somebody does something wrong, how do we knock them down? And then equally, if you're not winning, there's no interest. And you know, I was saying this actually today to somebody. I said, it's great that we're going to the World Cup because a lot of countries aren't going to the World Cup. But this idea that we'll win it, you have to get that out of your head. It's about the cultural opportunities that we'll have to go to a World Cup. And I think people miss that. Like, yeah, it's great to have a competitive nature and to win, but sport is so much more. I've traveled and been in tricky situations. And because I know a little bit about football, I've been able to get out of those situations. And one of the things that I love about sport in particular, and I'll say all sport, is that it is a leveler. Like it lets you into other people. It's an easier way to get to know somebody by saying, "Oh, who do you support?
Yeah.
Oh, do you? Oh, no, you're not a Manly fan. Oh, these guys are rubbish." Or you know, of course you're a South Sydney fan, or a Swannies fan if it's the AFL or anything like that. It's a leveler, and then in that is an opportunity to find out about the person, you know. And in this country, I think we miss a beat there, because I think through our sport is how we get to know our cultural communities, which are so diverse and so deep.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's something that I guess you continue to evolve and progress in life, because you never let it hold you back. And you were aware of all these clashes and differences that games might see and perceive. So talk to us about your playing days and then how you venture off into the arts and what you do, because you said earlier that you always knew that you were different and you worked on that. Something that I remember when I was younger, I was always a good public speaker. I was very good at debating. Every teacher made sure I was in debating from year 5. I was probably the first human to ever be suspended by the adjudicator in debating for throwing my palm cards behind me and trying just to put emphasis on the point. And I made, I don't know, I just thought it would be a nice little side gig. And then apparently I was bullying the opposition. I'm like, come on, man. It was just, I used to pack out the library. The library never used to be visited. No one knew what debating was. You know, I got the people in and then they censored me. Can you believe that?
I mean, I can, sadly, yeah, because you're not telling the line there, man. You've gone rogue. You're off cuff. You could say anything, and it better not be anything bad. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Yeah, look, as far as like that sort of transitions. So when I was playing football, I think, you know, I didn't really know it at the time, but as I reflect as I get older, I think the thing I loved about football was, I laugh because it's probably the first time I said it out loud, but it was this forced look at me. So you walk out onto the pitch, and if there's anybody there, and like when I was first playing, it was just mums and dads, or it might have been just 5 guys in a car on a Sunday watching first grade. You had to watch me. If I had the ball, you were looking at me. And I love that. I love just, and that was the same in school. Like I was the class clown because I just wanted all eyes on me. And on my Australian side of the family, my grandfather used to do a lot of home movies. And he and I used to clash because I just used to mug for the camera the whole time. And so be it in school or at home or on the football pitch, I was just vain. I just wanted everyone to look at me, and I just wanted to be seen. And that's why when I was deciding to not play football anymore and do something else, I went to acting, because I was like, well, they're going to put a camera on you. So you're going to be seen, or you're going to be on a stage. And I just wanted to be seen. And because I felt like I had something to show. Yeah. And even if it was going to be pushed down on or bullied or oppressed, I just wanted to, you know, voice it or push back on it and say, I'm just going to make you laugh, or mainly laugh, actually. I think because that's such a great way to, you know, corrode negativity, is to try and make someone laugh. But I just wanted to be seen. I think I wanted to be famous on some level. And once I started doing that, I mean, because then I could really see, like, once I made the shift and started going to acting school, what I found really enjoyable was going to acting school and particularly learning how to be a theater actor. I learned that I was part of a team, and I was like, oh, I've done that. And that's the thing that I loved about football. So even though I sort of was like loving the spotlight, what actually gave me the biggest buzz was the collective. So working together to achieve a goal. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I could get the ball and run through 3 or 4 guys and score a goal. But the adulation that I could get from passing to set up a goal, or getting back and defending, or working in a system that was conducive to winning, meant that I was involved in something bigger than me. And that was, and still is, I guess, for lack of a better term, for me, the heroine. How do I be a better member of my community? How can I be in an act of service? And when I first started acting, that's what I liked about it. But very quickly, I realized that I was a sole entity. So you leave acting school and you have to start trying to get work, and it just becomes about getting that gig. And then you get the gig, and then you've got the gig, and then the gig's over, so you got to get the next one. So for me, after, about 10 years of that, I had a similar thing with the football, where I was like, this isn't really what I want. Yeah, I've been on home and away. I've done a few different things here and there, but I'm not feeling happy about it. I'm not, and that's because it was self-serving. And I remember one day in particular thinking about a friend that I was working with at the theater. He and I had been up for the same role, and it was a big part, and he got it. And I love the guy, but I couldn't be happy for him. And it wasn't a case of like, oh, well, he got it and I didn't get it, and I can't be happy for that. I was just not happy. And I remember thinking, I need to find something that is going to be more conducive to being a community. The telling of stories, to inform the tribe, to enhance the community, to create connection. And it just so happened that as I was sort of having this sort of manifestation of ideas, an opportunity popped up, which my ex-wife saw on SBS and said, you should drive towards that, because I think that's something that you'd be good at, which was this connected program that I'm involved in with Sydney Theatre Company, where we use drama strategies for learning outcomes. And that's where I started to find some real peace. I kind of jumped through there.
No, that's all right. I'm going to drag you back, and we're going to go into depth, and we're going to try and give perspective to the people. There was so much for me to grasp. Now,
sorry, brother.
No, all good, bro. It's all good. Talking to us about football. Now, something that I see, I don't know if you see, you've played at a higher level and you understand the game a lot more than I do. I can tell when someone's been a part of a dressing room or not, just in life. When I first went into the office space and the workspace, I'm like, geez, I can't vibe with anyone. None of you have done what I've done. You don't know the camaraderie, how to lift someone up. You got a team of 11, and then you got your bench and you got your extended squad. You know that you all go into battle for the same reason. You're sacrificing. You went through preseason. I have PTSD. I can never do another preseason. Going through that alone shows you appreciation for one another, because you went through the grind. Yeah. And you have a bit more, like, you put in the extra mile. You're a man down. You put in that extra effort to make sure that a result is getting at the least. A lot of people, when they lack that, it's like, oh, I don't know if we can vibe, but we'll try. I know now I got to bank on my personality. When you left football and you ventured off into acting school, was there much a difference? How were you personally? Like, were you nervous? Did you back yourself 100? And did you connect with them as easily as you thought? Or was there a bit of a struggle and you had to rely on something else?
No, I think one thing that I found when I was really young was I didn't like the awkwardness of, going to something new and not fitting in. So if it was as simple as like going from, say, year 7 to year 8 in high school and having new classmates, I was like, oh, I hate this. Like, I don't know this guy, I don't know this girl, I don't know this teacher. And so I had a real uncomfortability with that early on. So I learned early on that what I had to do was I had to step into a room. Wherever that was, I had to turn up into that room, and I had to be the first person to say, hey, how you going? I'm Estevan. Or, oh, I love that shirt. Or even to make a gag and turn up and say, oh, I'm here for day one kindy when I'm rolling up for year 10, Yeah. Because what that did then was just give me some agency and to be honest, a bit of control over the space. So when I went from playing like football as a kid in as a teenager and then started playing first grade, like I was very scared to do that because I was dealing with men, but I just knew I had to step in. If I was shy and reserved, they wouldn't back me. Even if I was a talent, they just wouldn't back me. So I had to turn up and go and say to the guys, "Hey, Stanza, I'm Estevan. I'm happy to be working with you as my captain, or what can I do to help the team because I'm just glad to be here." And then also be calm and sit on the bench and do what you needed to do. So then when I went to acting school, a lot of people had said to me prior to going to acting school, be it a joke or not, "Oh, you should be an actor. Like you love to be in front of the camera, or you're funny and this and that." So then I just went, okay, well, that's what I should do. And I got really lucky. I was working in a cafe in Lane Cove. And I want to be really clear here. It wasn't just a simple case of being a footballer and then being an actor. There was a period of floundering where I was like, I don't really want to play football, but I don't know how to let that go. Am I letting people down? Am I letting myself down? And then equally, I don't know what to do. Where do I go next? Am I just going to work 9 to 5? Do I really want to do that? So while that was happening, I had committed to living in Sydney and I was floundering. I really didn't know. And I was working in a cafe in Lane Cove and I just happened to be working with a woman there. Her name was Robin. And she was an acting teacher at the acting institute called RADA in England. And at the time, I did not know what RADA was. And her and I just got on well. And she said to me one day, she said, "Have you ever considered being an actor? Because I think you'd be really good at it." And I'm a teacher at RADA, so I kind of know. And then I got the dial up because it was way back in the day when you had to dial up the internet. And I Googled what RADA was, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is somebody who
what's
who knows what
RADA,
they're talking
champ? For
about."
the people that don't know.
Well, RADA is the dramatic. I'm not going to be able to say it now, but it's basically the biggest acting school in England.
Oh wow.
The Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. The Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. That's what it is. Google it, RADA. And anybody from English cinema or theatre has gone through that school. So to be a teacher there, you have to know what you're talking about. And when she said that, that's when I sort of thought, oh, well, if she thinks I could do it, I've just got to turn up. And so I did. I just turned up. I went to a couple of auditions to get into some schools. I got offered into a school called the Actors College. It doesn't exist anymore. And I went there. And to be honest, as I turned up, I just walked in, chest up, head held high. But to be honest, I kind of felt at home straight away. I was like, oh, this is what I want to be doing. I want to be expressing myself this way. I want to be thinking like this, doing voices. And excuse me.
No, you're all right. Take a drink, champ. Take a drink.
Sorry, brother.
No, you're all good, mate. It's a platform for
inhaled a bunch of dust today. I inhaled a bunch of dust today. And then, to be honest, what I found, which just gave me a lot of confidence, was at acting school. Before I went to acting school, I thought I was a total dope. I just goof off in school and play football, right? And I never thought I could go to university or do anything or have any kind of knowledge. I was a real poor student in the curriculum sense. Yeah. But then I went to acting school and I realized, oh, I know the answer to that. Or, I know this about history. Or, I was reading Shakespeare and I was like, oh, yeah, I know about this war because I'd seen that film or I'd, read that book. And I just realized that because an actor has to know everything, like an actor has to be open to all kinds of things. And I realized that as I was opening myself up to that, just how much I actually knew and how much I'd retained as a kid and that kind of thing. So I felt very at home at in those places. And then I try to just take that now wherever I go into anything. If it's a job, if it's a relationship with somebody, a friendship, I do try to meet them, I guess, eye to eye, and say, here you are. And again, I never think as I walk into the room that I'm better than anybody, but I do think to myself, I'm in the room and I should validate my space in that room, if that makes sense.
No, most definitely. And I feel that to actualize your potential as a human, you need to make sure that you're reflecting, and self-care, self-love, and evaluating your day is the most important thing. Now, I know that mental health is very prominent now in our day and age, and it's a stigma, or it's a stigma that's been broken slowly, but men struggle more so than women. And I'll put my hand up first and foremost. I've never been the best at expressing myself. And geez, good luck trying to get something out of me. And I'll try and change the subject. or try and crack a joke or something. So it's something that's prevalent with us. But once you neglect yourself and you don't allow yourself to, feel worthy of anything, you're not going to actualize it. And you're not going to put your best foot forward in any field. Because if you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to believe in you. And that's something that I've learned on this journey, because when I first started, the first thing was, who are you going to get? Who's going to watch you? You're not going to attract any guests. Soon and behold, my first 10 guests were pretty big names from various fields. Then the naysayers started to be a bit believers, and they're like, oh, but you can't do it consistently. You're going to fall off. You've peaked and then you're going to drop. And then it just becomes personal. And then you're never going to satisfy the people. So first and foremost, you got to concentrate and look at yourself and make sure that you learn where you go right, where you go wrong. I'm a big believer in you're your own best friend or your own worst enemy, depending on how you channel your energy and how you reflect. Now, if you do it justly to yourself, you're going to grow. If you're lying to yourself, you ain't going to grow, and you're going to, depreciate, so to say. So you've taken your lessons through the academy and through believing in yourself, and you've used that in every avenue in your life. And I feel it's important for people that are listening to take that as well and implement it for themselves, because that's universal. Anyone can do that.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting that, although I was doing that, I was listening to the outside voices, the you can't do's. And that leaves a residue, because there is a part of you that says, well, I'm an imposter. I shouldn't be here. I put myself here, but, maybe I'm not the next David Beckham, or I'm not the next Heath Ledger, but then maybe I am, so there's this sort of boxing match that happens with yourself. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think I wasn't necessarily smashing it back then in that regard. This is new learned behavior. I was really tussling with that and listening to those outside voices. And what I've come to learn is that, well, all those people saying that are just because they're fighting their own fears of being able to achieve something, or they're just envious because you've got the nous to say, well, I'm going to have a go at that, or I'm going to try that out. And I got a lot of that, particularly when I went to acting school. People very close to me were like, why can't you just get a normal job? Yeah. Why do you have to do this? You did the football. Why can't you just, come back down the coast and work in a cafe, or, get a job in a phone company or something, and make some money, or go and study. And I just, even then, even though I had a lot of confidence and confidence struggles, like being confident or not having confidence, I just sort of always thought, well, I better do what I want to do. That said, I was a big people pleaser, and I was probably trying to do it to show them that I could do it. Not so much for me, but more so to say, well, see, I told you, look what I've done. And also to garner their praise, and I wasn't really doing it, the football or the acting in the beginning for me. I really wanted to show family members, friends, that I wasn't a waste of space, or that I wasn't, just a funny guy, that I could turn it into something. And I struggle with that a lot, because, particularly as an actor, you're either working or you're not. Yeah. And sometimes you're not working because you're a foot too tall or a foot too short, or you've got dark hair and they want blonde hair. It's not even that you're not good. You could turn up and you could just absolutely smash that monologue, and you could do the most interesting audition, but they'll turn around and go, no, we've gone with someone who's blonde, because that's what the client wants. And so how do you even come back to your flat or to your workshop or your class and then spring from that? Because you haven't done anything wrong. You've just not been what they've wanted. So there's a big struggle there with the negative, and that what tends to happen is the voices from outside turn up first, and they give volume to the inside voice, which is, I'm not good enough, I can't do this. What I've learned recently is that the only thing that you can control is yourself. Yeah, so you can't control anything outside. You can only control you, how you respond and react to things. But it's taken a long time. I'm 38 now, and it's only now in the last couple of years. And I had something very serious happen to me a couple of years ago, where it forced me to look at myself and the way that I approach life. And that's a new learning. That's not something that I had when I was in acting school. I definitely didn't have that then. It was a lot of self-doubt and And particularly like for a period of time there where I was looking to become a father and buy a house, I was like, are you kidding? You want to go to Hollywood and be an actor and also a dad and buy a house? Like, what are you doing here? So the negative is there. But the good thing is that I think deep down, the path pushes through, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. And I feel the same thing. And, even when I first started, yeah, it was against all odds, but I was very dependent, or I was very yearning to hear good praise. And when that didn't come, it was like, okay, why hasn't that come? Like I've just got a premiership winning rugby league coach on my 7th episode. That's a pinnacle. That's like talking to a Sir Alex, so to say. Like not many people have won premierships. I have done nothing in rugby league. I've never played rugby league. I've only ever enjoyed it as a fan, and I've just been able to get this bloke. My third guest was a premiership winning player. I went straight away to heights, and I just wasn't hearing anything. And then
you want people to come back and say, "Hey, Abbas, you just nailed that. That's brilliant."
100%. Right? That's all you're looking for. You're looking for that you done well, or just a pat on the back, or just something like that. And I was dependent on that for a while, and one didn't come, or two, it came in the form of what you should have done, or what you could have done. It was just never something that was enough. So I was always trying, and then they'd always come up with something else. You can't turn it into a sponsorship. You can't attract this, and it's not your livelihood. And I'm like, look, it got to a stage where I actually stopped for a bit. Not many people know this is the first time I've said it. I stopped for a couple of months. Not that I couldn't continue. I just was in a dark place. I was like, I've copped so much hate, and I'm like, is that going to define me or not? I had to find myself. I had to make sure I was good, and I was doing it for the right reason. Something with me, it's all about intention. Now, I never do something to prove someone wrong. Now, when I do something, I want to give someone something that they may not have had. Like I've had professors on the podcast. I've have a very creative person in the sporting world and in the acting world who's been there, done that, and was successful. So if you, Estevan, can inspire myself and others to continue, that's job well done. That's the reason why this episode is this episode. I don't want to do it to show, I've got an actor. I've had someone who's been on movie sets, who's been with Leonardo DiCaprio, who's been on the South Home and Away. And mind you, we're going to get to that. But I don't want to do it for that reason, because I feel it defeats a purpose. And I'm letting them control me. And then my actions are really null and void, so to say. But I also did struggle with that. And I feel everyone does. If you're going to be fair income, life's a roller coaster, ups and downs, whether it's health, whether it's your personal life, whether it's your professional life. Like I've got 2 degrees under my belt. Now, when I finished school, I done criminology. From there, I wasn't satisfied. I went on to do international law. Now, finally, as a graduate, I finally got my first job, started to get paid for something I wasn't used to, and I got to furbish my house. Long story short, I wasn't content. I wasn't happy. Something in me, I was like, I've now fallen into the system of ticking boxes, making sure I do a job, keep the company afloat, and everyone's happy, but me. And I remember sitting down and like, what a hypocrite. You're going to grow up and tell your kid, follow your dreams, do what you got to do, make sure you don't listen to any of the noises. But I fell into that system. So I go, you know what? I'm going to back myself. We're going to keep going with the podcast, and I'm going back to university. I'm going to do something now where I can be independent, and I'm going to take a risk. And everyone's looking at me like, what are you doing? There was news that I don't have any degrees, apparently. Some of the elders came up with a story that I've just done nothing for the last 7 years, dismissed everything. Looking at them, I'm like, geez, you haven't done anything that I've done. So how do you have a leg to stand on?
Well, I think, people, as I said earlier, people are always going to do that because it's easy to be critical of others, particularly, I heard a saying once, when you're pointing the finger, there's 3 pointing back at you. I always love that, because people who point the finger are saying, well, you're no good. Well, there's 3 of them pointing back at them. So I try to lean into that. And equally, as I said a moment ago, you can't control anybody else. People are either going to say good things or bad things. And what I found is, and I'm a chronic people pleaser. I'd like to say I'm a recovering people pleaser, because I would just do whatever it was. If it was to make, I'll take a gig just to make my wife happy, to show my mum and dad something, to show family something, And what I found was, every time I did that, or every time I tried to people please, it was like a shot of heroin. So somebody might say, hey, Estevan, great job. And I go, oh, thanks. And then immediately I need it again. So it wasn't enough. Like in the moment, someone might say, great job tonight. And I'd be like, well, who's the next person that's going to say that? Where are they in the room? Instead of just saying, well, thanks. Now, because when somebody gives you criticism or praise, right, it's hollow because it's just an opinion, like anything, right? What I found was, what opinion am I giving myself? Am I giving myself praise? Am I saying job well done? And what I found that was when I did that, the residue of that lasted longer. When I went, oh, you know what? I'm happy with that. That was good. I worked hard. There's a reward on that. Might not be the best thing I did, but I put some effort in and I got it done. And I actually maybe even just got through it. It might not even have needed to be good. What is good? I just got through it. It was a big script. I wasn't sure I could learn the lines. I learned the lines. It could have even just been a match where I was like, I'm just not fit. I'm injured. I just got to get through 90 minutes, you know. But if the coach said, hey, great job, then I'd be like, okay, but who else is going to say that? You know, and again, that adulation. You can have a million people say you're great, but it's not enough unless you say, I'm enough. And I always say that now. Like I always say to the kids I'm coaching or teaching, just remember right now you're enough, because if you're giving yourself your capacity, that's all you can be. And that's enough. It doesn't need to be anymore. It doesn't, because what happens is as I turn away from you and I get in my car and I drive home, I'm worried about the idiot in front of me who's not indicating. And then I'm worried about what I'm going to have for dinner. And I'm going to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow and the tax bill that's coming. So it doesn't really matter what I thought in that moment. But what does matter is for the individual, if you say, hey, I did good today. This was good. I'm happy with that. Because then tomorrow you got something to spring from.
So that's so true, honestly. And like for me, I'm obviously a Muslim and I'm very proud of that. And I make sure that I showed my best foot forward so people can understand, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and rightly so, with what happens around the world. Now, when we're looking at life from an Islamic point of view and Abrahamic faith point of view, you're looking at a God-conscious life where we're all going to be held accountable. Now, being God-conscious means every action has to please God, not the people. An example that's given when you read in the text is, if you're praying and the most noble man comes to your house to visit, usually people go slower, making sure they beautify it a bit more to show them at your standards. Look, I can pull a punch like you. Hold them. Little do they know. And unfortunately, the case is it's now not accepted because you're now doing it to please that individual. Your intention's lost and it's not a God-conscious act anymore. More so, it's a front now. So when you adopt a God-conscious life, you shouldn't be praising or looking or yearning for people's attention, because if you're good, you're good. It's got to be for the right reasons. Now, if you cure cancer, for example, just to make money, to make sure that the economy is booming, or you're a pharmaceutical company and just sell for the dollar, you don't really qualify for being a humanitarian or someone who's noble or someone who's chivalrous for something, you know. And it's really the purpose behind what you do is important, and then reflecting on that and coming back the next day and being better. Not only does that help because you're not listening to the outside noises, you're now growing as a person and you're being more content within your own skin, because you're not a robot now, because you're doing it your way. And so long as you're ethical in everything you're doing, then success is going to come.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I think, you know, on that, I think there can be a lot of self love in things like acts of service, you know. So 100%. You're not doing something for somebody to make them happy. You're doing something because it's an act of service that you want to give to somebody. You know, it can be as simple as saying to somebody, are you happy? You know, like at the end, like I do a bit of coaching and I never say to the kids, hey, good job. I always go, you happy? Yeah, great. If you're happy, good. No, I'm not happy. How come? Well, I didn't feel good about that. Well, let's have a look at it. You know, let's do this. And then equally, like, how am I going to be a better community member? Now that's because it's going to help the community. And I always say you get more bees with honey, but it shouldn't be about getting the praise of people. It should be the act of service, being a service to yourself, you know. And if you can do that, and 9 times out of 10, if you're doing that, it's going to be better for the people around you and they're going to appreciate it. But it's because you're not doing it for them, you're doing it for you. And they go, oh, well, that's attractive. Look at this guy or this girl, you know, helping, you know. And then you go away with something. You go away and you go, oh, I feel good. Like when I was working as an actor, it was selfish. So it wasn't self-care. It was just, I got to get this job and I got to make this money. And don't get me wrong, that career paid for weddings and trips overseas and stuff like that. But that money comes and goes, you know. Now the work that I do is more of an act of service And sometimes the things I see in return, you just can't put monetary value on what you get from that, from being, I think, a part of a community, whatever that community is.
Most definitely. That's why the text, if you look at the hadiths, say that there's a difference between a strong believer and a weak believer. Now, we're not talking physical strength or strength in the gym. We're talking about someone who can give back and someone who's dependent. So there's a difference between the two parables. And something about, like you said earlier, just right now, sorry, about being selfish in acting. I find that being, the best version of yourself and having financial freedom isn't, so to say, selfish, because you've just said it yourself, paid for weddings, went overseas and trips and gave you some. I don't see that as selfish. Is there something that I was missing?
Well, what I mean, I guess, by being selfish is, I'm going to do this because it's going to give me something, and it might be money, or it might be, an opportunity to be seen, or whatever it is. That's what I mean by selfish. I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing it.
In that context, that's positive.
Yeah. Well, what I mean to say is, what do I mean to say? Let me think for a second so I can be clear. So what I mean is, if being selfish is saying, okay, well, I'm going to do this job just for the money because I want to make this money. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with making money. But if that's all you're chasing, then you'll do anything. You could do pornography, make a lot of money doing pornography, or you could say yes to something that has very little artistic value for yourself. It doesn't stretch you, it doesn't test you, it doesn't give you an opportunity to grow. I think that's being selfish, where the self-care is, I'm going to do this because I think this will be good for the community. This is a story that I think needs to be told. Or I'm not going to do this because this isn't going to make me happy. I might get a lot of money for it, but it's not really what I want to do. I think that's the difference there. There's, and also, being, and I don't want to rubbish the career of being an actor, because being an actor is a great career. But if you're in it for the wrong reasons, it's going to hurt you a lot. So if you're thinking I'm just going to be famous, anyone can be famous. You can do anything. You could, do anything to be famous. But if you want to be artistic, then doing it for the money isn't going to help you do that. It's just going to cause a lot of tension. Where I think if you can find the art in something, be it even in your own work, like if you were to turn up in your day job and say, well, I'm just here for me, then you'll probably just get through the day and you'll get your paycheck, but you're not going to have an interaction with anyone, because you don't really care. You're like, well, I don't care what that person's doing in that department, and I couldn't give a shit about that person. But if you turn up and say, okay, how do we as a group, work together, then you're going to find out some stuff. You're going to learn some more things about some people. You're going to have conversations that you would never have before. What that does then is that enriches you, and it forms a connection because you're listening, and you're saying, well, we had a situation the other day where you and a friend of ours were just talking about boxing. Now, I don't know nothing about boxing. I know a little bit, but I don't know nothing, right? But I could listen to you for hours just because it was you talking about it and you're into it. And I was learning something, and I was like, wow, okay, there's the technicalities around this. Now, I go away a little bit more stimulated as a result of that. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't have any ambitions to get in the ring, and I may not even watch the next fight, but I'm more than likely to come to you and say, hey, Abbas, did you see what happened in that other match? Or tell me a bit more about this, or why is it that you're into it? And that is not being selfish. That's enriching. That's self-enriching, and I think that's, I don't know if I've made that clear or not, but that's the difference sometimes.
Yeah, no, I heard that now. Yeah. It's more like a dressing room vibe, basically. So you're basically pulling the team in together, and you're giving something, and then you're working as a collective to get the to get to the end goal, which is inspiring, because now I've understood exactly what you've said. So that got you. So you've now gone into, going back to your story, you've gone into acting school. You weren't too shy about it. You found your place. You found your calling. Now talk to us about that transition. Now learning is something, application is something else. How did you find that first step? Like you said, life as an actor is a bit tough. Was it easy at start, or what happened there? How did you get your first couple of gigs?
Well, I think, first of all, acting school is great because you're acting every day and you're learning, and you're doing it with like-minded people from all over the place. They've all come from rural New South Wales, rural Queensland, Western Australia, all over the place to come and study. And it's conducive to a really great environment. You're meeting all different kinds of people with different backgrounds, sexualities, religious beliefs, all kinds of different things. And 5 days of the week, you're acting. So you think, wow, this is amazing. This is exactly the life I want to be leading, And then come Friday, you're all going out for drinks and you're partying and you're having a great time, right? And you have no money because you're broke, but you're in acting school and you think, well, I'm a suffering artist. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I feel like James Dean, or I feel like Meryl Streep. And then acting school ends and it stops dead. Nothing. You on the Friday, you finish at acting school, and on the Monday, you're sitting around waiting for your agent to call. And in this country, because it's such a small industry, it doesn't call often. And you can call your agent and say anything, and they'll go, no, nothing. And that can start to wear you out. And then something comes along and they call you up and they say, well, there's a little gig for Commonwealth. It's going to be out in Blacktown, and it's going to be an 8-hour shoot. There's no lines. So then you go out there and you get the money and you do the ad and you come back. And you're like, well, it's not really what I thought I'd do, but I've got the job. And then you start to make some sort of movement. You go, okay, what do I need to do? I need to maybe volunteer. I need to maybe work for free. This is a dangerous trap, because if you start working for free, people will go, well, you don't need to pay Estevan because he'll work for free. And then all of a sudden you set a certain trend, particularly in the theater, because there's plenty of plays going on. Well, there was back when I was doing it, but they're not all paying. And what happens is, if you're not getting paid to work as an actor, you end up paying to be an actor. So for example, if let's say you've got a play on, you're the director and you cast me, but you say, look, I can't give you any money for it, but you're going to be on stage and it's good exposure. That's the big line there. Well, I say, okay, well, I'm going to need to be here 4 nights a week for rehearsals, and then we're going to perform, 5 nights a week and 2 matinees. So I can't work that time. I need to rehearse. So all of a sudden you don't have an income, but then you got to get the bus or the train to the rehearsals, or drive. So you're paying for fuel, and then you got to eat at the rehearsals. So you're buying dinner. So all of a sudden you end up paying to be in that play. You're not even getting any money for it. So these things can start to sort of wear you down a little bit, but then something comes along, you get a little carrot, and that's sort of how it works. I got a Ducati ad, ended up paying me some big money, got shown around the world, ended up paying for my wedding and a trip to Europe. And you think, great, I'm on my way, but then it drops off again. And so it's just this up and down. And I mean, some people love it and some people can live that life. It's a tough life. And it is the gypsy life. If you think you're just going to be based in Sydney and that's it, nope, you got to be able to move and go and be somewhere at the last minute. You got to be able to pick up a script and learn it in an hour or two. And then it can be a great life, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say, look, this is a good thing or a bad thing, but you need a lot of resilience to do it. And eventually, if you don't have that resilience, or that resilience wears out, it'll eat you up.
Yeah, no, look, it's crazy. You're talking from your experience. It's something that we can all benefit from, because you've been there and done that. What's the pressure of learning a script on the spot? Because I couldn't imagine having to go through so many lines and having to have memorized it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a skill set in itself. And, some people are really good at it and some people aren't. I think, like, when you're trying to learn a script, I think the thing you need to try and learn first and foremost is not so much the words, but what's happening. So in this scene, Abba and I are fighting over some property. So what's happening? We're going to have an argument about this. You were brothers and you're the older brother and you want to do this with the house because our folks have passed away. I want to do this with the house. Okay. So that's the idea. And then what tends to happen, if you remember that, then the words tend to come. You can use the script for those words. That's if you've got to learn it quick. If you don't have to learn it quick and you have time to learn it, you just have to learn every single word and every single line, because I think you got to honor the writer, and the person that wrote it is way better with words than the person speaking it. So you've got to try and give that. And equally, that's where the clues are in the punctuation, in the words, how to do it. Like, everybody says, how do you act? Well, we act every day. When you turn up to work and you see your boss and you think, well, he or she's a bit of a jerk, and you go, "G'day, mate, how are you?" Well, that's the acting, right? You don't mean it. You probably just mean, fuck this person. Oh, shouldn't swear, sorry. But you might have a negative opinion of that person, but he's like, "Hey, how you going? Nice to see you." Now, Abba, I want to point that out. When I see you at work, I genuinely am happy to see you. I'm not acting there. So everybody can act, but how do you act? You honor the writer, you honor the words, you honor the punctuation. And what I tend to find is when you do that, the learning of that tends to happen pretty quickly, because much like learning a song, like if you've ever had a song go around your head, you're learning the tune, and the punctuation is the tune of the lyrics of the script. So but it's not easy. I've had sometimes, and a friend of mine just the other day got a job on Home and Away, and they're like, we need you to learn the lines in an hour. She's on set, and they know, look, there's a good chance they're not going to know the lines. Sometimes in a play, you'll see an actor actually have the script in their hand if they've just been called in last minute, and they'll read off the script. Audiences are usually pretty accepting of that because they'll have been told that the actor's been replaced. But I don't know. I think one of the fun things about acting is actually learning the lines, because it's a chance for you to sit with the character just on your own for a little while and get to know each other.
Yeah, it's crazy. It seems like you have to immerse yourself into the character's life, and it becomes a part of you. Not that I've ever done it. That it sounds like you have to adopt the emotions and ride the roller coaster according to the writer. Now, I don't know about how writers write in this country, but I watch a lot of Middle Eastern shows, Syrian shows. Their writers backflip about 500 times. They've made the character the best, the worst, and then back to the best. Like literally, they've killed it off so much. A lot of big actors just walk off set and they don't come back because they're made to be the hero and then the villain in the same bloody scene. Is that common, or what's the go there? Is it everywhere?
Yeah. I mean, it is. Look, it is common in a sense. That's a big question, Abbas, because I'm starting to think about French cinema, Spanish cinema, Australian cinema. What I will say is this: like any career, there's going to be people who are good at it, and then there's going to be people that are going to be bad at it, and there's going to be the people in the middle. And usually, the people in the middle are bad at it, and they think they're good at it. And there's a lot more of them than there are bad or good. And I think that's with anything, with football or sport or any job. There's always the ones who think they're really good, and then there's the ones that are good or aren't good. And I've definitely had a lot of situations like that, particularly in theatre, because anyone can put on a play, but not everyone can direct. And it can be I think the hardest thing about being an actor is that you need to create something, and that creation comes from your own experiences or your own information. So for me, and this is not necessarily the case for all actors, but I like to think of as if. So let's say, for example, I'm playing somebody who is a drug dealer. Well, I've never dealt drugs, but what would I do if I was a drug dealer? And that's what I'll do. Or, I've never had the urge to kill somebody, but I might play somebody who has that urge all the time. So what would I be like if I had that urge? And you got to be careful. And that's why we go to acting school, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to become that. That's not, it's acting. So acting is the creation of something. It's not the being of something. So you don't become a killer, but you do start to think around those ideas. You're like, okay, so, well, if I was to do that, I would do this and I'll do that. But to answer your question, it becomes frustrating because once you've started making strong decisions about what I'm going to do with this character, and then someone starts spinning it around on you, well, then you got to start again, or you got to pivot. And sometimes pivoting is okay, but if there's this constant pivot, what happens is you can't find any grounding, and so then you don't know where you're coming from. So I'd imagine a lot of those Syrian actors are having that. They're going, well, I've made some strong decisions here. I think I've got something happening with this character, and now he or she is this, and okay, I can move that way, but I don't know if I can go that way, and it just becomes very complicated. And a lot of producers, directors, people who call the shots, they do, much like a manager or a coach would. They use the actor or the footballer like a piece of a chess piece. They just move them around as they please, and they say, well, you're getting paid a lot of money, so do that. And some are really good at it, some are not. I don't mind it, to be honest. If you want to change some things up, as long as you're clear with what you want from me, I can pretty much do it. But then I've also worked with people who I've just gone, I don't even know where this idea comes from, and I don't know how to process that, because I think they're just getting carried away, and that can be really hard.
Yeah, it's crazy because one of the biggest Syrian actors walked off. He won't ever work with the network again based on how they flipped his character. And then when he came out in interviews, he was basically saying they were trying to cut costs on other actors and by replacing them by other personalities. But this guy built the character for the last 4 years. How can you just replace him based off 25% of a fee? So he goes, I told them to take it out of my wage to give to him. And then in return, he felt that the writers were attacking him. And then from him being the hero, they wanted him to be the villain. which made no sense because I've watched the whole show. They practically killed the character in that sense. So,
and he would have felt hurt because he would have felt like they were trying to discredit him by making him look silly.
Yeah.
And because he's the face, so the audience goes, "What's he doing?" They don't see the writers, they don't see the director. They go, "Why is he doing that?" And then all of a sudden, you go, "I don't like this guy too much anymore. He's not for me." So, I totally get that.
He said that in the interview. Exactly. He said exactly what you said in the interview. You guys have all fallen in love with this character. How can he now be the spy who's dealt with the English to come and turn on the Syrian?
I mean, I had a similar thing. The landscape has changed a lot in Australia, and I should preface that before I say what I say. Like, a lot of things have changed for the better recently. It still has a long way to go, but there's a lot more rainbow casting now, and there's a lot less typecasting. So rainbow casting is where you are casting people of different ethnic backgrounds in different roles. You might have an Asian lead instead of just a blonde Anglo-Saxon lead. You might see some more Islander people turn up in Summer Bay on Home and Away or something like that, or you might see more people with dark hair turning up. Typecasting is when you're cast in a role because of your dark hair or your ethnic origin, and I had a lot of that in my time. So I've done some stuff, and I don't really talk too much about it. I'm not particularly proud of it, but I'd done some stuff on an Australian sitcom, which I'm deliberately not saying out loud, where I was typecast a lot, and I played 3 different characters, a Greek, a Leb, and an Italian. And the Greek was an electrician who was violent towards women. The Lebanese guy was a plumber who was a drug dealer, and the Italian guy was a builder who was an alcoholic. And I played that character 3 different times, those 3 different characters 3 different times, and it was the same character. And it was the ethnic man on screen looking like the stereotype. And I just started to feel very uncomfortable about it. I didn't like what they were asking me to do. I didn't like the way that they were encouraging me to have a thicker accent in regards to certain things. And it was one of the reasons why I wanted to get out of it also, because I was like, I just didn't want to get typecast. And I felt like I was...
No, you're right. God bless you.
Sorry, brother.
No.
I felt like I was selling out those people too, and those communities. I sometimes I remember thinking, am I working as a Spaniard in this role because a Greek person won't take this role? Is that why I got the gig? And what am I doing to that community? What message am I sending to the people that watch this show and to that community? So there's been a bit of that in Australia, and for a long time, like particularly when I was coming up, but even before then. The good news is it's changing. Has a long way to go, but before it's completely changed. We do see more Indigenous actors. We do see more Asian of all kinds, so Middle Eastern, Asian, and European actors and Islanders on screen, which is good. But we need to see more, because we're still not reflected. Our community isn't reflected on our screens.
I agree.
Big or small.
I agree. And like I've mentioned in the podcast and several other episodes since I started, I am a proud Muslim. And something that gets me is that the representation in the media and in acting roles and in all facets, it's represented in a way that, geez, if I wasn't, I'd run away. And if I didn't know what I knew, I'd say exactly what the stereotypical person would say.
Yeah.
We're told that you're not meant to be doing drugs or dealing anything. In Islam, obviously, it's prohibited. You're not allowed to be clubbing, dealing or mixing with the opposite genders, selling drugs, so on and so forth. The only roles you ever see Lebos is, like you mentioned, the drug dealer, the person who's doing things that you shouldn't be doing. And then they're representing a whole country, a whole religion, nationality based on the stereotype. Even when these days, I think they're easing up a bit, and with the feminist movement, more females are getting more roles based. For me, I feel to push a certain agenda, right or wrong, I don't believe it's correct to do so. So they got the Scarfies wearing a scarf and playing a role. Fair play to them. But then you see them shaking hands and hugging and going to the bar. It's like, that's not what the religion is. Like, if you're going to do it, do it justice.
Do it right.
Yeah, or don't do it at all. So
Yeah.
I see the problem that we have here in Australia and abroad as well, because I think that apologetic nature or the effort isn't there to put in. Your due diligence isn't there when you're doing such things.
Well, two things happen. First of all, the first one is they're sending the wrong message. So until you start interacting with people of those communities and you go, oh, actually, that's not right. You don't know that. So you get fed something and you go, oh, so what such and such says on a morning show about these group of people is now echoed in this TV show in the evening. So they must be this because I've seen it twice and I don't know any, but from what I can see, they're no good. Or they've made a decision about that person based on that. The second thing is this, is that then they're just put there, but they're not represented correctly. So that's probably even worse, I would imagine. Like, as you said, if somebody's wearing a scarf and then they're at the bar, well, what I'm learning as a non-Muslim is something that's incorrect. And what they're selling you is the Anglo-Australian ideal, which is, hey, we're all here and look how they're mucking in with us. But that's okay. You don't have to go to the bar to muck in. Having a conversation is mucking in, getting to know somebody, being respectful of somebody's choices, regardless of where you're born, what your religious beliefs are, just your choices. There are people in my life who have struggled with substance of all kinds, food, alcohol, drugs. If they don't want to have a beer, let's just respect that. You know what I mean? It doesn't, like, that ideal or that pushing of that ideal for me is something that, as I'm older, it doesn't sit well with me. I don't like that. And I didn't like being a representative of that. I felt like, okay. And as I said, maybe I'm being cast because I'm just that Spanish guy that will say yes to that role because they can't get an Italian or a Greek or a Lebanese guy to do it. And then I was like, well, hang on, what's going on here? But I think we've got to be really careful. And I don't think we are being careful enough yet when we are putting people on screens. And it can just be the way that men are shown on screen and the way that women are shown on screens, that we're doing it in an authentic and holistic way. It's no good just saying, this is what men are, this is what women are. Because to be honest, Abbas, I'm a man, but I'm not your standard Aussie male. You know what I mean? I'm not that macho, get them drunk, get in the fights kind of bloke. I'm that, let's read some poetry, let's have a glass of wine and maybe have a dance. But who's going to tell me I'm not a man? Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, that's so true.
We got to see a little bit more of what is what, man, woman, Lebanese, Spanish. These are things to grab to and find comfort in or a home in, but they're not defined. Like I'm not a Spanish man. I live here in Australia. I'm not a Spaniard. I'm just Estevan. Take that or leave that, whatever that is. You know what I mean? And I think that's how we should be looking at each other.
100%,
I like that guy.
yeah.
I like that girl.
100%. I feel that on both sides, both extremes, you don't want to go too far and you got to find that equilibrium in the middle, because either way you can go astray, taking it how you take it, but just treating people based on common human values. It's like the term assimilation was what White Australia was written on. And if you're forcing someone to do such a thing, one, it's unjust, and two, you're trying to fabricate robots. What are we in what are we in a conveyor belt or a manufacturing plant where we can't be different? I think you should be celebrated based on what you do, because that creativity is something that defines you. And that's something that intrigues me about your journey. So now you've gone through acting school. You now realize the hustle and the grind is real, and the gigs are far and few in between. But when they come great. And then otherwise, it's just how you're going. Talk to us about how you kicked on to set Home and Away. I'm imagining that was one of your biggest ones at the start.
Yeah, I mean, when I did that, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with the casting and stuff. But you mentioned them, so that's cool.
No,
it's cool.
Yeah, fair play. The Jay's done it again. Unbelievable. I've been waiting this whole time to get to when you're an actor, the certain roles you take, because a certain person, which is me, has to be petrified from anyone who was scary on screen. So talk to us about the considerations that you take taking up a role that doesn't define you, because you said it earlier, but like being just a killer, for example. I remember Zoe, whatever she was on Home and Away, petrified.
Yeah.
If I ever see her in real life, turn around. I don't want to bar her.
I think, I think to answer that question is this: if something like that comes along, the first thing you think is great, because you look at the people that have gone through these kinds of, well, that, for example, is an institution, that and Neighbours, they've been around for 30 years, right? And the first thing, you think is great. Whatever it is, I'll do it because it could lead to something bigger. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to see this. And I remember thinking when I did it, I was like, at very least, my mum's going to see it. And all the people in Ulladulla are going to see it. My sisters are going to see it. Their friends are going to see it. And this big show that everybody's seen and watched will go, oh, he was on that. And in some ways you feel like you've made it. And I was stoked. But there's a lot of people that have gone through those shows that have gone on and had big careers. But there are also a lot of people that haven't. And sorry, brother.
No, good, bro.
And when I did it for the first time, I actually did it with Thor himself, Chris Hemsworth. And he and I got up to some fun. He's a great guy. He's a really fun guy. He hadn't been to acting school. He just got cast because he's a good looking blonde kid. And we had a lot of fun. And honestly, like, it was fun to do. Like, and when I was a kid and I was playing those roles and I was like, I don't know, Leah, I don't know. I'm just here to see you. Don't get so uptight. I had fun playing that, because you think, well, this might be it. I'm playing a character. I'm stepping outside of myself a little bit. I'm going to be seen. And maybe the next step for me is the US. And if I get there, there's no turning back, because that's really what it is. And particularly in this country, that's where you need to be. Like, I was able to do some stuff in other countries, but you want to get to the States. You want to get that green card and you want to get a line out, because once you get a line out in the States, then you can stay. And then your chances of getting more work are increased. And everybody knows that's where it is. You could be Alf on Home and Away, but there's only one Alf, now there's one Irene, there's only one Susan Kennedy on Neighbours. So not everybody gets to spend 30 years on a TV show and live, in Cronulla or live wherever they live, most people are starving artists and they want to get to the States because at least they'll get a TV series or a movie, so they're not starving anymore. Because that's almost the thing. Once you work in the States, whatever you've done is going to give you enough money that you could then maybe set up an acting school, or you can set up a theater company, or whatever it is you want to do, so that's the thing. So that was where I was at with it. I was like, great, this is my break. But it wasn't. I did it 3 times and it wasn't the break. And probably the second time I probably should have gone to the States after it. But to be honest, I was scared of the machine. I just thought, what if I go there and I don't make it? What if, and at the time I was married and I was like, it's a lot to ask my wife to pick up and go, or do I just pick up and go? Do I leave her here to do her music and stuff? And do I just go over there and try and do it? And hopefully she can come over. And to be frank, I just got scared. I just thought, what if I don't? And that sort of goes back a little bit to what we spoke about in the beginning of that self-doubt, and that, what if I'm not good enough? And sometimes that's the hardest thing to find out, is to go, oh, I'm only at that level, and maybe you were actually at that level, but do you want to find out, do you, or is it, can you just stay safe, and at that time I probably was, well, I know I was guilty of playing it safe. I didn't want to find out how good I was. Maybe I could have been good enough, and I would have been Iron Man instead of Robert Downey Jr., but I was too scared. And so that's sort of where I was at with it.
Do you find environment plays a factor? Because a lot of people fall into that. People watching, working a 9 to 5 fall into that, so to say. We're not saying everyone, but we're saying the majority haven't backed themselves, whether it's being an owner or an employee. It works on every level. If you haven't taken that step, you kind of do understand what you're saying, what Estevan's saying, because a lot of us fall into that because it's easier said than done. That naysayer, that person who's hating in the comment section or telling you what you should have done. Well, that person didn't take the leap of faith himself, because had he done it, he wouldn't have to be advising us, because he would have done it himself.
Exactly. I mean, and I think that's the hardest thing. I mean, to sort of take it out of the art and football context, I'm at a place in my life now where, I'm recently divorced and the horizon has spread open, and I'm scared. I'm scared to actually step into it, because once you take a step, you don't know if it's the right step or the wrong step. I actually heard something literally before I came on air, and it sort of brought me to tears, which was, it takes a lot to be brave enough to just step into the void. And I know that that's something that I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to make a step, and it could be just to go to Europe for a year, or it could be, to take another change in a career or go down a different road. And I think not enough is put on just how hard that is to do. Like, because there's a lot of what if, because like right now, I work at the Sydney Theatre Company. I work at Ultra Football. I've got a flat. It's not cold in here, so it's safe. But this is a flat that I shared with my ex-wife. This is a job that I've had for 10 years. I've worked at Ultra Football for 3 years. So although it's safe, there's nothing happening. And, life is short. And, I know there's an urge for me to make something happen. I'm like, okay, well, I need to do something. There's been this sadness, this heartbreak, and now I need to go off and start something new. But to do that, and to even just sometimes even think about it, not even just to take the step, but to literally sit down for a minute and go, what am I going to do here? Let's map it out. It's very scary because there's a lot of what ifs. What if I get it wrong? What if I get it right? What I will say, and what I'm trying to lean into myself right now, is that when I've done this in the past, it's always worked out. Might not have been what I thought, but it's always worked out. I'm okay today. So whatever that was back then, if it was football or acting, if it was a change of career, if it was an ending of a relationship, it's okay. And I got to trust that with the next step. And I think we forget that quickly. I know I'm forgetting it quickly too myself. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe you're going to go and live in Spain for a year. You've always wanted to do that. But post-COVID, recessions, money, jobs, well, guess what? It's all there anyway. It could be really bad. It could be the worst thing you ever do. But you've had some bad stuff happen to you and you're okay today. So trust that whatever goes down, you'll be okay then. And I guess that's where I sort of, not that I have any regrets, because I try not to have any regrets, but sometimes I think about my acting and I'm like, I should have stepped into that void then, and I didn't. And that's why I didn't get what I wanted, well, that's why it didn't turn out the way I hoped. But that's life, man. That's living and learning,
100%. See, my take on that is, though, everything that you've done, you now appreciate it more than someone that may have done it, because you now understand the consequence of not doing something more so than someone who has. And I feel that lesson in itself is you can't put a price tag to it, because you understand and appreciate in other ways things you have or might not have. And the next time coming, you benefit immensely because you've been there, done that. I feel a holistic approach, like I said, I live a God-conscious life. So everything is godly. And if religion makes sense or is holistic, it's got to give an answer to everything for me. Otherwise, it's see you later. So basically, when we're looking at growth is very important. And no matter where you go to get your text, you got to be in a certain discomfort level to grow. So you got to put yourself out there. Otherwise, growth doesn't come. We also look at traveling. Now, God has created the earth for us to go and travel and see and venture off. When we're looking at traditions from the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family, it's also almost your home is your safe haven. But don't get too safe, too secure, because go out there, reach for the stars. Don't always be content on being an employee. Work towards being an employer where you're independent, where you yourself are the master of your own destiny. And I feel that challenge to put that all together, to create memories, to be captivating, to be different, unique, robust, willing to move and come back, is something that tempts me and entices me, because it's like, I don't want to fall into that trap of I lived and I did and I regret. Now I can die trying and never make it, and I'm content. So long as I put my foot forward and I back myself and I put myself out there, well, then it is what it is. At the end of the day, like you said, the next day is going to come, the sun will rise, I'm still alive. All the pressures of society and the world is going to be there if I'm here or there or anywhere. And God knows, if it doesn't work out, I can always come back. And that's a stage in my life I'm at as well, because not a lot of people appreciate or understand the decision I made to go back. I'm now back as a life as a student. You've been there when you went to acting school. You don't have your money, you're struggling, you don't know where your paycheck's coming, where your next big gig is coming, if a gig's coming at all. Because I'm in the gig industry as well. If someone wants me to come out to an event, well, I can cover the event for you. You're just going to have to tell me what you're going to give me in return. And some, like you said, will tell you, you get exposure points, but exposure points don't pay the bills.
Exactly.
So I'm in
And
that.
how many exposure points do you get? You know what I mean? Like it's people. If someone has a skill set, that should be returned upon. That's how I feel.
100%. And I feel that it's not there at that stage because people just want to try and control you and monetize you to what they feel. They don't understand the editing and the work and the sacrifice and traveling to the gig, coming back from the gig. You've spent about 20 hours. And like I said, I paid to come to your gig. So it's not going to happen.
I think, there's two things here. I think, first of all, the misconception is that we all want to go out and walk the earth and have experiences and, leave a mark. I think that's a misconception. I think there's some people that just want to, get up and go to work and come home and get up and go to work and do it again and have the simplicity of it all. Maybe have a couple of kids, maybe find a nice person to be married to or share a life with. And, we sort of look down upon that and go, well, they don't have any ambition. But I mean, if they're happy, then they've won.
100%.
100%. You don't have to go out and chase the dragon to win. You can just go, you know what? This little house here in this little place or whatever it is, I don't even want to generalize it, but if you're happy doing what you're doing, great. The other thing is this part, for those who do have that urge, a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are built for.
That's a great one. Yeah, I like that.
And I always think about that. And I do feel for me, I have that capacity to be safe in the harbor. I like it. Nothing's going to happen to this ship here. Maybe a couple of barnacles. I'm starting to get a bit gray now. Luckily my looks haven't faded yet, Abba, so I don't know if anyone's going to see this, but ladies, I'm still looking good.
Yeah, this mate, it's visual. It's gone to the YouTube, mate.
Oh, good. And but equally, there's that part of me that I got to turn the engine on. I got to turn the bow and I got to head out. Because I want to see, and that's just me. It doesn't have to be anybody else. But what I want to do is I want to drink that tea in Istanbul. I want to, chat with the guy in Tokyo. I want to, read the paper in Paris. I want to see that painting in Berlin, or I want to yell at Liverpool fans in Liverpool. So if that's what you want to do, then I think you've got to understand that's not easy, and there's going to be a lot of things that hold you back. 100%. And equally, if it's not what you want to do, then that's cool too. Like what I think is really tough, and this is the thing that sort of irritates me a lot, is that when others impose their ideas on you.
Oh, forget it.
That's the hard thing.
That's the
worst. You
worst
got to go
thing.
out and see the world, or you should get married and have some kids.
The worst thing.
You do you and I'll do me, and let's see how we go. You know what I mean? I'm going to support you in doing that. But I don't even need you to support me to do that, but just don't tell me what to do. That's what I try to do that as much as I can, because I'm a human being and I'm flawed with others too. I just try to let them live. It's interesting you mentioned about the religion. I think the thing that I'm not religious, but I would say I'm spiritual. And what does that all mean? Maybe that means I'm religious. I don't know. But I think the thing that I like about religion is that there's a reflection and there's a conversation with self. And that self can be your God of your choice or whatever that is. And in that reflection and in that conversation, then you can then go, well, I like this and I don't like that. And I don't like the word critique because that seems nasty, but you can go, well, I'm happy with this and I'm not happy with that. And I can change this, or for now I can't change that, but I can make my peace with the fact that I can't change that right now, and I think that's what's important. I think if you can, and I think we all have that capacity, if you can look at what you're doing and give yourself a little bit of a scorecard, knowing that you're not going to get 10 out of 10, if you can go, well, I'm getting a 7, that's nice, but let's see if we can get that 8, then I think that's a great way to go in whatever that is. Even if that's just the guy who is happy working the 9 to 5, and having a very simple existence.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel that's what's most important. I don't know why the human race is not all about uplifting one another. Like, I don't understand how I have to impose, like you said, my life on you, or I'm now going to be your life coach. Estevan, you got to go do this, that. But you do what makes you happy, and you do what makes you you, because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, I'm going to end up living my life, whatever's written. I'm going to die and I'm going to go down to this grave. Like every one of us, listening, watching, not watching, whatever. We're going to the same place. I'm going to have to answer for me. I'm going to have to live and die by my sword. So do you. So I don't know why you're so worried about mine. And like,
well, it's irrelevant. Like, for example, like 500 years ago in the middle of somewhere, there were two guys having the same chat, and you and I don't know who they are.
100%.
You know what I mean? And so in 500 years, if this place is still here, because who knows what we're doing to it as far as like the climate goes. But in 500 years, no one's going to go, well, Abbas and Esteban said this. So I reckon it's important to have these things. Don't get me wrong. This is important. I think it's important to be talking with each other. It's important for men to talk with men, and for men to talk with women, and women to talk with women, and gender fluidity, to have discussions, and because that's how we learn and that's how we get to know each other. But equally, your opinion is kind of irrelevant. That's the thing, and a lot of people have a hard time with that. My thoughts and everything I've said up until this very sentence is just the accumulation of my 38 years. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
100%.
It's just what I've seen, and it's what's worked or hasn't worked for me. And I got a lot of learning around that. I've made mistakes. People talk about regrets and stuff, but yeah, like, I mean, to get a bit personal, but my marriage ended recently, and I have a lot of regrets around that, and I'm very, very sad about it. But it's what's happened, and the way I see it now, it's what I do in this moment that counts, so the next one can be a little bit more fruitful, or it can be a little bit more informed is probably the word for it, and I think that is all we can do. I don't want to even say that's the important thing or whatever. I don't want to be giving out any advice. I just think it's important that we understand that we should be trying to help each other more than, tell each other what to do.
100%. And I feel that, life is short, and it's too short to learn from your mistakes. If you can take from someone else, you take it, and we move forward together. It's not that I pull you down to put myself up. It should be the contrary, like you just mentioned. And it's important. And this is why I'm very inspired by this episode, because 1, you've kept it real. 2, you've been there. 3, you've done what not many people have done, if any. Now, talking to us about that last transition. So now you found the acting wasn't your way. Now you're doing an initiative that's altruistic. You're giving back to people. You're uplifting. Talk to us about now what you're doing at the theatre, what the theatre is, because people like myself, I'm not really the most creative in sense where I've been out there to understand what a theatre is. So talk to us about that and the work you do now, and how you've used all your experience to now give back.
Yeah, cool. Well, what I would first say is that everyone should go to the theatre, even though I've just said you shouldn't listen to what everyone says. But go to the theatre, because what happens in a theatre is this. A group of people go into a room, they sit down collectively, and they listen to a story, or they have an experience around a story. And that story is something that's written from life. So you if you can't travel, or if you want to open your scope and you're tired of the clique or the circle you're involved in, if it's family or friends, go to the theatre, because something will happen where you'll go, I know that, or okay, I see what you're saying, or I don't know what's going on here. Either way, it's all good, right? So go to the theatre.
My sister went to Mary Poppins apparently at the theatre. Does that count? I told her.
Yeah, 100%. Like, first of all, Steph Jones, who plays Mary Poppins, I just worked with her recently with some school workshops, and yeah, it totally counts, because what you're seeing there, Abbas, is first of all, you're seeing music. That's art. So someone's singing, right? Second of all, you're seeing costume design. That's high art. That's someone who's sat down there with a needle and thread and not created just a beautiful dress, but a dress that can be taken off in a minute so another dress can come on. You've got set design. So you've got building, you've got infrastructure already in the sets. Then sets that move. So there's engineering inside of it. You've got the orchestras. So you've got musicians and musicianship. And then you've got the joy of the story. You know what I mean? And the morals and the learnings inside of that. So yes, Mary Poppins, musical theatre, very valuable thing. Any and all art, in my opinion, is valuable. It doesn't matter if it's listening to Vivaldi or to Harry Styles, or if it's, listening to the back catalogue of the Beatles, or listening to Arabic chants, or I don't know what it's called. I do apologize.
Do you know how much I don't know? I told my sister to record so I can see how it is inside. She comes back, I go, "Where's the recording?" She's like, "I didn't record." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "You're not allowed to record in the theatre."
Do you know why? And I tell you why, right? Because what we want you to do, right, is to have the experience now.
Okay.
Don't
that's
be
fair.
distracted by recording it and then going
Yeah,
away
yeah.
and having it. Let it be a solely and holy moment now where you're present. There's not enough of that in this world, right?
That's so
And
true.
so
Yeah, yeah.
and also equally it's copyright. So I don't want you to copy the set and send it elsewhere. So
Oh,
what you got to do is, if you're interested, is you got to go see Mary Poppins, right? That's what you got to do if you want to find that
I've
experience
been
out, right?
eating all the sugar, mate. The spoonful of
Yeah,
sugar
right.
is a bit more than a spoon.
Done. So yeah, so that's my big preach. If I have any preach, it's just get out there and check out the art, be it dance, be it musical theater, dramatic theater, concerts, whatever it is. Just get out and check out the arts, because that's where community lies. That's where we are as humanity. I've been at the Sydney Theatre Company. In January, I'll have been there 10 years. I'm very proud to work there.
Legend, 10 years.
I worked there in a couple of different capacities. Firstly, I started there as an usher, so someone who rips your ticket and tells you where your seat is. Now I work there as a house manager, so I take care of the ushers. And I also work there as a teaching artist. And a teaching artist is somebody who is an actor or a performer from the arts and uses drama strategies. So the things that we would learn in acting schools. So it can be anything from just a clapping game to a voice warm up to a technique on how to learn lines. We use those strategies for learning outcomes. And I do that in a couple of capacities. I first started with a program called Connected, which is at the Asylum Seeker Center in Newtown. And it's also, there's one out in Auburn also that I've worked at from time to time, but I primarily do the one in Newtown. And we use drama strategies there with migrants and refugees. And the learning outcome there is language. So there's no textbooks. We're not sitting at a desk. We're in a room. We'll get up and we'll interact. And we might write something on a whiteboard, but it's dialogue based. And we use a fairy tale and we tell it over 6 weeks. And that fairy tale will change, and it won't be the actual fairy tale that we start with. It'll be something that they've created or they've molded. And the idea is it's to create conversational dialogue. And I've seen people go from zero English and from all around the world. So West Africa, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and recently from the Ukraine. And I've seen people go from zero English to conversational just from doing this program. And then the second tier to that, which was the original tier, so I've sort of done it backwards, is the school drama program. And so it's the same thing. We use drama strategies for learning outcomes. We use it in primary schools and high schools, but the learning outcome is literacy and oracy. So that means they're writing things. We're looking at a book that's in the curriculum. We're breaking down the characters and we're breaking down the story, and we're making decisions about the book, and we're having a deeper understanding of the book. So you might read a book and go, okay, Abba got up one day and went to school. He was bullied. He felt sad and went home. Well, we'll look at that story and we'll break down, why does he feel that way? And what's happening at school? And what can he do to help himself here? And then we'll use those strategies to help kids with writing. We'll help them be more conversational. And the thing about this program that I love is that it isn't just for the kids that are falling behind. Because when I first got into it, I was like, oh, I needed this in school because I didn't fit the curriculum. It's also heightened learning for kids who are doing well in the class. But the crazy thing is that the program isn't for the kids. The kids are the beautiful byproduct. It's a learning tool for the teacher's pedagogy, which is pedagogy is their tool belt, or what the things that they implement in their learning. So it's giving them more than just the curriculum to teach kids with. So yeah, I hope I explained that well.
Man, it's crazy. No, I can feel the passion, and it's something that, you know, it resonates because you're touching people from all walks of life, and you're giving them an opportunity, and you're affording them with the greatest tool that human can achieve, which is intellect, which is knowledge, and you're empowering them with that. How does that feel? Because I couldn't imagine giving them that and seeing a result of someone who couldn't speak English now speaks English, who now has a world at their oyster. Like, they can do whatever they want now.
Well, I think to answer that question, I have to talk about why I wanted to get into it. So my grandparents, when they came to Australia, they couldn't speak any English. And I had great communicate with them, but it was in Spanish and in English, right?
Yeah.
And particularly my grandfather. Particularly my grandfather, he was just too proud. He didn't want to let go of his language. He let go of everything else, right? And when I first found out of this program, I thought, if my grandmother and my grandfather had this, they would have had a different experience, and it would have been a better experience. And I never say better or worse, but in this instance, it would have been better, because what would have happened was they would have felt differently in the day-to-day. So if my grandfather after work went to the pub, he couldn't have a chat with anyone because he refused to speak English. So they go, well, there's that wog, or the wogs are in the corner, right? As opposed to him walking in and saying, oh, good afternoon, can I get a Tui's new, right? Or if he just went to the shops, he was at the hardware store and he just, instead of trying to find that bolt and it'll take him 4 hours to find it because he can't ask anybody, he can just say to the guy, I'm looking for this socket for this. And he probably would have had a dialogue with the guy at the shop and he probably would have become his friend because he kept going back to that shop to buy more and more bolts. Because as you know, Abba, wogs like to build things, you know, and they always need duct tape, right? So he would have had that, but he didn't have that. And he also, more importantly, would have had a deeper dialogue with me and my sisters.
Yeah.
Right. And he didn't have that, but that's okay. That's how it is. So when I first saw that program, I was like, oh, I want to be a part of this because this is something that wasn't around when my grandparents were here. But if it was, it would have been beneficial. So how can I now give that experience to them? And it's going to be a use of my learning as an actor to be more communal. So instead of saying, I got to learn these lines and I got to tell this story, action, cut, okay, see you later. Let me know when it goes to the premiere or the play's over tonight. Thanks very much. I don't know how many people it affected, but I hope it's okay. In this instance, I was able to see the results, which was, it was giving somebody an opportunity to become a part of a community. Now, it's not about saying to people from the Middle East or West Africa or Asia, you need to assimilate and fit in. No, this is giving you a tool so you can simply go to the shop and ask, what aisle's the milk in? So you can get some milk. And it's doing it in a way that is interfacing. So we're having a chat. It's not textbook. And I don't know about you, every time I've sat down to try and learn something out of a textbook, I'm less likely to retain it. I'm learning more about the world by talking to you right now than what I would be if I was reading the script from this episode. So for me, I was like, this is exactly where I need to be. And what happened very quickly, and this is the interesting thing, at first I thought this will make me feel good. But what I saw was this, they were feeling good because I was providing them something. It had actually nothing to do with me. The program was giving them something that they didn't have. And that was making them feel good. And they were then interacting with each other. And then in turn, they'd then go home and they'd have a conversation with their grandkids because their grandkids are already learning English. The kids that are coming here are already learning English in school because they're surrounded by it. So they're soaking it up and they're learning, right? And what happens is the kids will learn English and then they'll start to drift from their parents because they'll go, oh, it's my parents. But if their parents speak English also, or some English, keeps them together. So they were having this heightened experience. And I just thought, wow, what I'm doing is what art is, which is sharing stories with my community. And which has been happening in tribes all around the world since the beginning of time. And I just thought, finally, I'm doing something with my art, which is its purest form. And for me, that's it. And now when I do it in schools, like to give you, I know I sort of went on a little bit here, but to give
you're all right, man.
To give you a quick rundown, I'm going to school tomorrow, but I was there last Wednesday at a school called Plunkett Street Primary. So it's in the Housing Commission of Woolloomooloo, and it's a very different school. It's not your usual primary school. It's got a lot of Indigenous kids. It's got a lot of kids from different backgrounds, good and bad. And last Wednesday, there was a girl from the Ukraine. Her name was Marie. And I can't imagine what she's seen in the last year. It got me thinking about the last 2 years that I've had personally. And I thought, wow, what's Marie seen? And here she is in this room full of strangers. And these little kids, these 6-year-olds are around her saying, well, we're here with Marie. She doesn't speak English. She's from the Ukraine. And we start doing the lesson or the program. And very quickly, Marie's talking and she's talking. She's saying, good morning, Mr. Kennedy, in English. And she's laughing and giggling. And I just thought about my dad. I thought about my grandfather. And I thought, this is a good moment in this young girl's life after probably a lot of really heavy moments. And she's going to go home today. Sorry, brother. Her parents are probably as stressed out as you could get, are going to turn to her and say, how was your day? And she's going to say, it was great. And that's going to be a win for the parents. How was your day? It was great. And the parents are going to go, it's worth it just for that. So to be a part of that, man, I'm very humbled. I'm very humbled. And as I said, it's got nothing to do with me. I'm just facilitating it. Yeah. My job is to make sure that what I do makes it as accessible as it can be to anybody. It's the same as if I'm coaching football or talking football with somebody. How do I get you to love it or to enjoy it or to make it so you can be as soaked in it as you can be. That's the aim, because I think that there's value in that. If it's being a football fan, if it's being, or a sport fan, if it's being a sport fan or being involved in the arts, how can this heighten your experience? Because it's going to open you up in a way that I don't think anything else can, to be honest.
Do you feel that your whole life, when we're looking back through this whole podcast episode, do you feel that everything's set up in a way for you to be in the position you are now, to understand what you have understood? Like, could you have got all this otherwise? Because it seems like it all makes sense in a way where even the dressing room, to backing yourself and finding where you belong, then realizing that it's something that may not really be what you perceived, working on yourself. Yeah, there's your ups and your downs, but then you've picked yourself back up and then you said, this is something for me to gain, but you really gain by giving else to someone else. And that's something where there's a hadith from the grandson of the Prophet who says the responsibility of knowledge is to give. So it's something that you benefit by giving away. And you see in all these stories, and the young girl from the Ukraine who's seen God can only tell you what she's seen. Now you're empowering her with something so she can now write a new script and move on and empower her own character. Yeah. You're a catalyst to that.
And it informed also, like, for the first time, I actually saw my dad as that kid, you know, and going, oh, that was my dad, you know, 50 years ago. To answer the question, I think first of all, I should say this: nothing is as scary. Like, forget football change rooms, forget acting auditions, acting schools. Nothing is as scary as walking into a room full of 6-year-old kids. They don't want you. They don't need you. And if they don't like what you got, they're not going to take it. So with that said, I think, I don't know if it's a path or it's led, but all that stuff has definitely informed what I do now, be it the football, be it the way I am on the pitch, if it's also wanting to be seen as a footballer, as an actor, if it's going to acting school, if it's being Spanish and ethnic, if it's growing up in a small country town and not being a good student, if it's, you know, working on myself personally, if it's having my marriage fall apart due to an affair and having to rebuild myself. I don't know. I think I've just, if it is a path, I've just walked it. I don't think it's led up to this. It has led up into this moment in the sense that I'm 38 years old in how many days. But what I can say for sure is that it's informed it. It has informed everything that I do. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And that informs the next situation. You know, that's that class last week was a good class, but to be honest, the 4 classes before it at that school, I'd been really challenged and I wasn't enjoying it. And I thought, I'm missing something. And I knew when I was going to go to that school that I would have this moment, that I was at that point in my career where I needed to be tested like that. I don't know if I've passed the test. I could turn up tomorrow and it could be a nightmare again, but it's all informed it. And in that moment, the takeaway is that here's this girl having this experience. It might be the first experience, and I'm just lucky to be there. I get a bit emotional. I think.
No, you're a legend, honestly, because it's uplifting.
I'm just lucky to be there, you know. But in the same way, I'm just lucky to be anywhere. You know, I've had something I wanted to mention earlier is when we talk about perceptions and stuff. Like when I found out about my wife, I was really worried about saying anything to the boys at Ultra Football, right? Because I just thought they're not going to get it. They're young men, you know, football background. And what was interesting is they got it, and the people at my other job didn't get it. And these young men like really gave me something to lean into. You know, I had some great conversations with, you know, Arabic guys, Greek guys, Italian guys, you know, all different kinds of guys at all different ages. And some of the lessons I learned were from really young men who were like in their early 20s. And I was like, and I never expected to learn anything from them, but I got through it because I'd listened to them, or I'd held space with them. And that makes me just feel lucky to be there. And in the same way that what I'm doing in my career now, I just feel lucky to be present.
No, you're honestly, it's a pleasure and honor, because you're someone who doesn't have that entitlement ego where you're out there to get the best version of yourself. And a lot of people don't do that because they're not putting themselves out there, you know. And I pride myself on talking on my shortcomings or things that I haven't done, because it's from there where my biggest growths have come. Because that stigma that exists where you can't talk or someone won't understand. Man, I've heard lessons and learned from people that I also didn't expect that to come from. I thought that might be the most judgmental, dismissive people on the face of planet Earth. Then they've just come back and they haven't judged me for a second. I'm like, it's not coming. Oh, fair play. It's like, thanks, man. But it's unfortunate that they're few in between. Like they're the exception, not the norm. And I feel that it's people like yourself, you know, I try my best to voice themselves forward and try and inspire people to listen. It's not all rosy bosy, you know, you have your goods and your bad. I don't get every guest, believe it or not, that I invite to come on. That's fine. You don't have to come on, but I'm going to pitch my pitch. You come on, you don't come on, we'll get you in the future. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, we'll live to fight another day. It's, I've gained so much from this, man. Honestly, what's next for you, champ? You know, we're giving but what are we doing? What's in the paperwork?
Well, as I mentioned, mate, I'm standing on the edge of a cliff freaking out, going, I don't know what to do. I think, you know, it's a great thing to be at where I'm at now. Like, it sounds really weird, but I'm really grateful for all the things that have happened, good and bad. Just because for the first time in my life, I've probably developed a relationship with myself, which is why I'm happy to come and have a chat. I'm usually the one that's doing the chatting. Like I did a podcast with STC in lockdown, and I just didn't want to talk about what was happening to me. So I did it so I could talk to everybody else and find out about them. That was really healing also. But I'm in a place now where I'm starting to feel like that wink is coming back. And mate, to be honest, I feel pretty dangerous in a good way, because I could do anything right now. And I like that. I like that, you know, I'm getting near 40, and I feel like I'm entering a new phase in my life. What I'd really like to do on some level is maybe take this program that I'm doing or on some level to Europe, and introduce it over there. I think it could work really well with like the schooling set up over there. But also I'm kind of thinking about maybe a quieter life, maybe moving somewhere smaller, and maybe starting two things I'd really like to do. I'd like to start maybe a theatre school with a difference. So using that sort of the program I'm doing now, but also not necessarily the focus being on being talented and then going off and getting work, but just having art in your life. And I've always had this kind of dream to coach a football team from, say, the under 10s and stick with the group right through to first grade. If that's a team of boys or a team of girls, I'm not fussed, but I'd really like to, and I think I could only really do that if I went somewhere rural. You know, I think the system in Sydney is way too entrenched in a bunch of different politics, which is another podcast altogether. But so there are a couple of things that I'm thinking about. I try not to talk too much about also these days about what I want to do, because I did a lot of that as an actor and things didn't turn out. So I just kind of like to keep my cards close to my chest. What I can tell you I'm going to do, Abbas, is I'm just going to take one moment at a time. And I'm not going to think too far ahead. I found that if I plan too much and things don't work out the way you planned, that can be pretty heartbreaking. So I'm just going to live for now. At the moment, I'm doing a podcast. I'm having a good time. And then on the horizon, I'm going to school tomorrow to do another class, and we'll see what happens after that.
Absolute legend, honestly. The traditions that come to my head when you're saying all this is one who knows himself, knows his Lord, knows his creator. Now, if the creators afford in the creation to know him or the creator through knowing themselves, then what value does that creation, us being, have in the eyes of the creator? Now, when we're looking at harming a believer, that is one of the worst things you could do, because in Arabic, it's qalb al-mu'min is the arsh of the Rahman. So if you're looking at the throne of the Lord, it's in the heart of the believer. So if you break the heart of the believer, well, you've just shook shockwaves to the throne.
Yeah.
So if you were to go, you know, in the pilgrimage where we pray, the Muslims, it's the Kaaba. If you were to go and damage that, it's less ramification than harming a believer, because that person's heart in the eyes of God is the throne.
Yeah.
It basically comes back to the tradition I mentioned earlier. One who knows himself knows his Lord. So once you get to know yourself in that level where you understand that your heart is so intricate. Your soul is so important that if
Mm.
that breaks and you're breaking the throne, so to say, metaphorically, of the creator, then that also makes you conscious of your interactions with others, because you do that, well, then you're the perpetrator, you're the criminal in the act,
Yeah.
and you're going to have to face the repercussions one day, and you don't want that on your hands. So that means you value
Yeah.
human life. That means you value everyone and treat them with the utmost respect. So
Yeah.
in that way, one, you benefit, and two, you make sure that you're conscious of making sure that you don't want what done to you to others.
Yeah.
And it's important on this wave of life, because geez, we're all trying to find ourselves, and it's hard enough to find yourself with all the pressures of everything around you, and it's all about uplifting and learning from each other. It's honestly, it's a pleasure and honor to know you and to have you, because man, I've grown immensely just from this chat.
Well, what I would say, like, the one thing I know is that, and I don't know anything, but I know this: the minute I started having a relationship with me, I started having a deeper relationship with others. So that's what I know. I mean, I spent a long time, as I said, people pleasing and not one thing that the breakdown of my marriage forced me to do, which was the best thing about it, was I needed to shift the love somewhere. So I shifted it onto me. I had nowhere else to put it. So once I started loving me, I noticed that it made me closer to others. And I know that. That's what I know. And so again, if you say what's next, it's just probably that, just to sort of continue that relationship with myself, and in turn see how that affects my relationship with others. So
100%. And the living in the now is so important. It's easier said than done, because even like you're looking at the most cancer terminal patient, which breaks my heart, because I've had a lot of family members who went down that route and unfortunately have passed. They're walking, and this, it's like a ticking time bomb. But how do we know that in the now that my lifespan is going to outweigh theirs? If we're considering and appreciating every moment, then we're not looking down upon anyone, and we're maximizing every minute that we have. And I feel that's of the importance, because, geez, time is so invaluable, such as health. And as you get older, you understand it a bit more and more. Like, you can't do things you could have done at one certain point in your life. And you're like, reminiscing, am I going to accept it or not? Kuzi was telling me today that he nutmegged you in the cage, and you guys make sure you mention that.
Well, it's a good point, because I have to be honest and say that there are moments like that where I feel my age and I'm like, okay, I wasn't the player that I was. But equally, and to Kuzi, I will say this: I'm 38 and I'm still getting out there every Sunday with the boys, who are, I'm old enough to be their dad, and I can still ping a pass. I mean, look, to be honest, also for Kuzi to nutmeg me is no great feat, mate. Like, I mean, and he's nutmegged greater players than me. But if he's dining out on nutmegging a 38-year-old, have a look at yourself, champ.
Oh, mate. He was psyched. He goes, make sure you tell him, how creative am I? Well, now, you've done some creative scenes with him. Is he up there or what?
I mean, look, Kuzi, I mean, he's a good example, actually. He's a great example to mention, somebody who we know, he and I talk a lot about, being present and, of overcoming adversities. He's getting through a couple of big injuries, and he's a young man learning and growing, and to me, that's winning. I see a lot of that. I see a lot of young guys and girls these days, just learning and growing. And I think the one thing I should mention is that, this current crop of young people, they seem to get it. And that's really nice, So, good man, Kuzi, and it's shocking to give him a shout out. I know a couple of people will be upset that we didn't give him a shout out. We'll hear about that.
Of course. Sure. If you do give him a shout out, or them a shout out, we don't want to specify who we're talking about.
Exactly. They know exactly who they're talking about.
You'll cop it for mentioning him on social media. Like, what right do you have to mention a story of me? Like, did I give you permission? Did I sign the waiver?
Exactly. They know who they are.
Oh, man, that's the beauty of it. We both.
But I love them. That's what I'll say. Yeah. But I love them. You know you are.
You got that deep into the episode, you deserve to know that he loves you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're still here, I love you.
Now I'm nearly sure he will, mate. He'll be critiquing. He's got his notebook. Yep, said this, said that, missed this, missed that. He got the shout out. I didn't get the shout out. Okay, who'll be hearing about that?
Can't believe Kuzi got a mention. What am I going to do to get a mention? I've been through there for all the bad stuff with you in the car park late at night. What am I going to do? But I won't.
Mate, that's legendary. Mate, this is the end of the segment. We always give it back to the guest. Estevan, message for the people watching. What message are they taking from the episode? Sum it up, champion.
Oh, wow. Big thing. I guess what I just say is, just, I don't know, I don't want to get too deep. Just, just relax, take it easy, look each other in the eye and have a chat with somebody, see how they're going. I mean, as I said, I think the thing to leave on actually is what I said earlier. Once I got to know myself and started loving myself, that created a better connection with other people. So do you. You don't have to listen to anything I said, but that's what I know is that when I did that, I started having interactions like this, so and it's been great for me. So and it's been great to talk about it. You don't often get a chance to shout it all out and go through that, think about how things led to each other. And I'm glad we didn't just stick on the football or the acting. We went into other things too. So that was good too. I loved it, mate. Thank you very much for
Nah, you're an absolute champion. Look, it's unfiltered, uncensored. We don't know what we're doing here. We're having a chat. We're keeping it real. Listen, guys, no one believes in you more than you. Go do you. 100%. He's the champ, the actor, the guy giving back. I don't know what I am, but guess what? We're all